Hello and welcome to the Lenko Show. This is episode number 138. We're calling this one Respect the Judge. All right, we'll go into the reasons for that in a moment because Chris has shared a few different things with regards to this recently on social media. But first of all, as a reminder, this is the place where we talk about all aspects of human performance, mindset, nutrition, training, the whole overall perspective. And we are backed up a little bit with some help from Dry Robe, which has come in very, very useful for me over recent weeks when we've had some significant downpours, featuring a trip up to Scotland to play against the East Kilbride Pirates, where I actually had to use my dry rope in between spells of actually needing it to cover up my bag of equipment, my bag of footballs to stop them from getting absolutely soaking wet. So shout out to dry rope. Winter will be coming. Go and get your gear now. Not to mention, I actually used it in Wales as well, walking in my sliders down to the sauna, down to the pool. Don't even have to get changed. I literally just get out the pool, sliders back on, dry robe on, and trot off down the road back to the van. Beautiful. Just makes life so much simpler. Just with a coat. Just a coat. It's more than just a coat, but you know what I mean. Anyway, today's episode, respect the judge. Now, you initially shared a video about this on social media, and I feel like there are many, many aspects and connotations to this. So we're going to go through the importance of respect the judge, respect the referee, and ultimately like fitness competition standards as well, which is a big issue for a lot of people, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it ties the two tying together. It's respect the judge and respect the standards. So the initial video that I shared was from the Hyrox World Championships, and there was a young gentleman on the wall balls, and I think the video claimed that he had originally uploaded it himself, and then claimed that he'd been no repped 60 to 65 times. And on the video, you can see the reps that he's doing, and he's not hitting the standard, as in he's not actually doing a squat. So a wall ball, for those of you who can't see visually, I'm going to try and describe it. You stand up straight with the ball in your hands in front of your chest, so in front of your face. You do a full squat with the ball in that position. So you squat all the way down. And the definition for the full squat is the hips dropping to just below parallel. That is the, let's say, functional fitness world's definition of the squat. That's where you need.
So the technical definition in the powerlifting world is the center of the hip, and this is the standard that we use for a lot of our PT assessments. The center of your hip below the top of your knee.
Yeah. And that is therefore the standard that athletes should be adhering to. And this guy's not hitting it, but his point is that no one's hitting it. And in this video, he's just churning away reps, and the judge is stood there, no repping him, no repping him, no repping him. And he does about 12 attempts, and he's just not squatting low enough. And that's the reason he's getting no rep, because he's not squatting low enough. And the judge has obviously said that to him. And the guy's point is, I'm not doing anything different to any of the other athletes. Some of the athletes have been allowed to do this. Why are you judging me differently? And for me, my perspective and the reason that I shared it was because if you cannot hit a standard, you shouldn't be at the World Championships. Like you probably shouldn't be doing the workout itself anyway. You should be doing a scaled version whereby the judges aren't essentially necessary because you're not, they don't need to be diligent on making sure that you're doing things to a specific standard. At a high level, which you would hope that the Hyrox World Championships would be deemed a high level. Otherwise, and I recall, Alex, you had this conversation with Josh Riley, who I worked with over a year ago, about that sport not being taken seriously. If you think the World Championships, if there's stuff going wrong there, like we've said about before with CrossFit, if there's stuff going wrong, like there's been times where I don't know if you've seen any of the clips of the sled pushes, whereby they'd changed the turf, and so some of the sleds weren't pushing. And then I've seen some other like different things as well, but you would hope that if it was a serious sport, the World Championships would be well organized and that things would run smoothly. I've seen other videos whereby judges have had to stop athletes because there were no available judges to run with them to the next section to count their reps for them. So they've basically had to pause their timer, hold them at a gate until people run through and a judge is free so they can then bring a judge back for them. And it's like,
But then they've been getting recovery as well. So then it's no longer the same event, is it?
exactly. And this is it. Like the problem with not just Hyrox, this is a lot of different functional places. And this was my point. I've been to competitions before where if someone who, let's say an Olympic athlete, right? Because I was thinking someone who's acclaimed and esteemed and knows what they're doing in terms of exercise and they knew all the rules and regulations walked in, they would see 20 people competing and potentially 20 people doing 20 different variations of the same exercise. Now, you would expect different differences based on things like anthropometrics, like lever length, so leg length, things like that. But you wouldn't expect to see people doing movements that are clearly not the same as what other people are doing. And if they are, you're just not doing the same thing. By definition, you are doing something different, and therefore you cannot possibly be measured competitively against other athletes. And I think it's shit for this was my point. It's rubbish for the athletes who are trying to hit that standard and are hitting the standard because in theory they may be significantly fitter and significantly more dynamic athletes, but the person who 1/10 of the range of motion and therefore expending potentially 1/10 of the energy, they're going to get through it faster and easier. And
Yeah.
so, where is the actual competition? Like, where is it? And I also think if you were to host something like that in your sport or at your gym or whatever, I would hope that there would be a little bit of pride and integrity tied to the event that you're hosting. I wouldn't be like, right, okay, yeah, let this athlete off. Okay, let this athlete off. Okay, let this athlete off 3 times. Surely at some point it's like, right, we've let this athlete off 3 times. So now we have to let every athlete off 3 times. Or it's just no, no one gets like a special treatment. It's just they've not hit it. It's a no rep. If they can't hit a rep scheme or a standard, unfortunately, they can't win. They're not going to win.
So I think I've got a few different avenues to this, and I have a potential idea for a solution, right? I don't think there's a perfect fix. I think there's probably a couple of options on the table. The first thing that I want to throw out there is that by their very nature, athletes try to get away with things.
Yeah.
Not necessarily cheating, but they will try to like any fraction of a second, fraction of a rep, whatever they can shave off, they will. And if it means they go into the gray area rather than go in to exactly where they know they're past their squat depth, for example, they'll try it. And if they can get away with it once, they'll push it a little bit more, maybe get away with it again and then again and again. And ultimately, from a judge's point of view, it's very, very difficult. What, 'cause like, what is it, like 100 wall balls?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of reps. They're counting everyone and they're trying to analyze every single one. And it's happening fairly quick. Powerlifting, it's not as quick. It's fairly slow just by the nature of the weight they're using. Whereas if you look at someone's body weight squat, if all of a sudden, each rep might look a fraction different and you think, oh, that one was borderline, oh, that one was borderline, that's a definite no, then you might hit them on that rather than the two that were sketchy, if that makes sense. So then it becomes difficult to stop them because they've had so many in that gray area, and you think, oh, well, I've let that one slide, and that's, do you know what I mean? Like the standard isn't necessarily crystal clear because it's happening quick. Unless you could freeze frame the bottom of every rep and go, yeah, 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 very, very tough. And I have a lot of sympathy with the judges because I think it's hard to pay attention. Like, I'm gonna say it's hard to pay attention. I mean, it's your job, but I would find it difficult to sit there with a clipboard going, yeah, 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 no, yeah, yeah, no, no, yeah. And I think the reason for that is there's a few other different things that come into it. So obviously he said there that he's doing the same thing that he thinks everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
So he's not sure as to why he's not getting away with it. Ultimately, I think if I was told no, on that's not a rep, you have a feel for where you were. You go, but I'll make sure I get the next one. And then I'll make sure I continue to do that until he maybe no reps me again. But this perception of my body is moving exactly the same as everyone else, we know that that's not always accurate. Like people think they're doing, like the amount of times as a coach I've demonstrated a rep and then I've gone, right, now you do it. And you get some sort of gammy representation that is nowhere near anything that you've actually demonstrated.
Yeah.
Um, so I think what people have in their minds, the tape they play in their minds of what they're doing, isn't always accurate. So he could be in the wrong there. I think he needs to assess that. And then you've also got the emotional factor for the judges, right? They're people. They're not machines. They're not AI bots that are going to sit there and just be 100% clinical. Like if you've had to no rep someone 5 times in a row, it's really hard to then go again, no rep, go again, no rep, unless it's absolutely abhorrent. Because if they're in, like I say, if they're in that gray area, you're going to be like, "Ugh, I kind of want you to do all right. Unless, again, this is where it comes difficult. If you know the person, if the person has a reputation, again, the emotion of, oh, do I really want to no rep this person or I don't like this fucker, I'm going to no rep them. Like I've seen examples where Tia Claire Toomey, she's been no repped at the CrossFit Games. Matt Fraser's probably been no repped at the CrossFit Games. Probably the best movers on the planet. And if they're not meeting the standard, if they're, finding ways to kind of cut corners a little bit, it makes judging difficult.
Yeah, I agree. I've just made a few notes about some of the points that you've made there. And the last one, obviously, this is the freshest that I think of here, is I've been to certain competitions where there are, let's say, notoriously known judges or judges who are notoriously known for being strict and diligent with things like range of motion and things like reps and are you at full extension or not. Like they become kind of known and they kind of get pointed out and singled out. But that might seem like a bad thing, but actually it's typically, well, now I know exactly where I stand with this judge. There's no guesswork involved. You are going to find athletes who are like, right, this is the person that I've got. And I had this at Battle for Middle Ground event. I can't remember what the guy's name is. He was a French judge, but we were told beforehand that he's very, very strict with range of motion, things like that. And we'd watched, heats previously where he was being strict and diligent with it as well. And it just meant for us as athletes, I mean, I pride myself on my movement anyway. I always want to be moving well. I made damn certain that I was doing things correctly and professionally. And what he said afterwards was, 'cause I think Chris Warren got no rep for something, and we always said, If we get no rep for something, please explain to us what exactly it is so that we can correct on the next one, so we're not guessing." So that's what you'll see a lot of time, and you see it on this video. He's like, "Yeah, you're not hitting depth. You need to squat lower." They'll tell you, and it was like as simple as making sure that if it's not clear and he can't see that it's absolutely definitely, if it's in that fine line, that grey area, then it doesn't count because it's not clear enough. That's what he said. His standard is if it's not clear, it, I don't know. So it's a no. So make sure that it's a yes. And
So
so
I think, sorry, just to that point, that's where I think fitness competitions have a serious problem. It's not like a football match where you've got the same referee all the way through the game. Like if you've got a different judge for each separate event, I think like you've got individual differences between the judges, and then even their own consistency and their own level of consistency. Like refereeing performances change from week to week. A referee might have a really good game one week and then might see things very differently the next week, or might focus on something slightly different, be in a slightly different frame of mind, maybe a slightly worse mood. Like you get the individual differences from judge to judge. And then you also get the differences of consistency within each individual judge from event to event and from moment to moment. So I think there's so many aspects that make it very, very difficult. And until you can, we say we want to standardize the level of competition and the standards. Well, I don't really know how you get that until you can standardize the judging.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if you can get that unless you do standardize the judging. I think it's very, very difficult because there's more like the one thing that you get with football is that everyone knows it's a game. Everyone knows the game. The game is always the same. Fitness competitions. I think Hyrox is kind of trying to change that game slightly, where it is one individual, like it is a race now. Like a Hyrox event is just a Hyrox event. CrossFit's competitions always have a lot of variety, so everything's always changing. It's always in flux, and I think that becomes very difficult to kind of standardize referee score fairly, I guess. Um, so I think that it's very, very tricky, but like I say, unless you can, I mean, if you can't standardize a basic squat and you've got an event with 100 of them, I think
Yeah.
it's very tough.
But I think one of the other things, one of my other points was that most of the judges at these places are volunteers as well. There'll be people who have opted in to go and help out. They're not professional judges or anything like that. There may be a couple of head judges who have had to do a couple of courses or a screening or make sure that they are to a set standard. But that's it. And if you've got 50 judges there and there's three head judges who are policing the judges and the other judges are just there, like imagine, for example, me and you, Alex, we know that we'd be squared away. If I had you as a judge, I would trust that you're more likely to no rep me than to rep me. And I've seen that happen.
I'd let you away with everything, bro. I'd just let you off with it all. I just go for a walk now.
But can you imagine if you think some of the people that you encounter in the gym, and I'm thinking of like obviously even our gym at Profit, but like imagine people at commercial gyms, what they would deem acceptable as a squat, would I trust them to judge someone? Absolutely not. And even if they were told, yeah, the hip needs to cross the knee, do they like I know that sounds obvious to us because we know what we're looking for, but a lot of people they'll look at what they might hear that, look at what other people are doing, like, right, okay, that's what it is. Whereas there's no real actual strict rule as to what's going on there. The hip's not crossing the knee, but they don't know that because they don't know what that really means. Even if they have been briefed, a briefing might not mean a lot to these people who are volunteers. And then I think one of the other things as well is, like you said, there's the individual differences among the athletes and amongst the judges as well. And that ties in also with fatigue. Like a lot of athletes will argue with the judge about A, whether or not they hit depth, or B, how many reps they've done. And you ought to think, first of all, athlete should be concentrating on what athletes should be doing, which is the skill or the sport and doing reps, and not trying to count their own reps themselves because you are significantly dumber when you're actually exercising. Like it's significantly harder to be racing through exercise and trying to do mentally or cognitively stimulating activity is very, very difficult. Like the blood is going to the working muscles. It's
See,
not lighting up the same area in the brain. And it's the same for judges. If you're sat there counting 1 to 100 6 times a day, you're probably going to make a couple of mistakes.
yeah, not to mention it's boring as. It's kind of upsetting that you've mentioned that because it kind of scuppers my next point. And this is one of my ideas for the judging, for it to be done out of sight of the athlete. If you video each section of the event, first of all, we have an honesty rep counter where you count your own reps. You think you've done, you carry on. If you think you've done 100, off you go. You get on with it. If you don't, keep going. And also, like, if you don't actually do 100, there are penalty reps involved, or there is a penalty time limit, or something of the sort. And for the judging, I think it would just require a simple camera next to where the athlete's working that can analyze posture and the movement overall. And I know for a fact, like there are AI apps and there is technology there that can assess joint angles, and you just plot the dots, and off you go, and it can track the movement. And then you've got a clear yes or no. I think you just implement that system to actually count the reps. So again, you rely on athlete honesty, integrity. That apparently that's a huge part of CrossFit, honesty and integrity. And then you've got virtuosity, which HIV. I don't understand why they've had to go that way. Hon- Honesty, integrity, and virtuosity. Like, why are those three things?
Well, that says it all right there,
You
doesn't
know,
it?
I mean, yeah, I feel like
You know
CrossFit.
exactly why they've gone for HIV.
Yeah.
Do you know what I think would be really, really simple? So this is what I do when I'm at comps because I'm a top gangster. Oh, what a weird thing to say. I'm not. I'm sorry. Um, top rapper is what I meant.
Immediately makes you not gangster.
I'm not gangster at all. I'm the whitest, softest person. Sorry, everyone. But listen, because this is actually a really good
Are you
point.
saying that to be to be a gangster, you can't go on? Let's
No,
move on
no,
before we dig a hole.
God. Um, let me think. What was the scene? So this is what I do. This is actually a genuinely good idea, despite the fact of everything that I just said. If we just erase that last 2 minutes, this is one of the smart ideas that I've had. What I do before an event, I speak to my judge. And I say, so this is one of the other things. I think that'd be a bit harder in Hyrox because I don't think you have the same judge all the way through. But you speak to your judge and you clarify what what is my standard here. And this is what I think would be really useful with the wall balls is before you start, they would have to change the way they do their heats because I think they start like a heat and then 10 minutes later another heat and then 10 minutes later. I don't know. But what you would do is you would clarify with your judge what your bottom depth is for your wall ball and then you just leave a stimulus there at that height. So you set something up specifically at that height so that you have to touch it every time.
Yeah, like set on a stick
A stick would certainly work
or a
because
buzzer, like a buzzer or
have
a,
you ever seen the
a,
little like
a whoopee cushion,
squishy pig things?
little whoopee cushion, something like that. Yeah, I think that'd be fair. Because that could help count the reps. You could just have a little timer up top, and then you don't like if you can remove the judge and the person, and you remove that individual error. I think you're in a good position there. I think you're in a better place. Although that being said, when it comes to the technology, we'll go back to the you mentioned about the sled pushes
Mhm.
before. This was tragic. Like this was this was
Oh,
really
it was brilliant.
so they tried to sled pushes are always difficult because I think a lot of the time it's very difficult to actually standardize the weight that you're using, even if you're on the same carpet, same track every time. If you go to another gym, the sled's different, the track's different, the surface, like so many aspects of it. So a 90 kilo sled push in one gym is not going to be the same, not necessarily going to be the same as a 90 kilo sled push in another gym. What Hyrox managed to do was lay some turf that seemed to be completely different from the other sections of turf that they'd laid, which meant that the sled was barely moving and was probably three times more difficult for certain athletes depending on their lane draw. And I mean, if you're pushing it, it's a different environment. It's a different test at that point.
I agree. I agree. And it makes very little sense. The other thing that I would say with Hyrox as well, while we're on that, is what are the wall balls doing there? Like when you think of the movements that are in the Hyrox event, why have they put wall balls in?
Why is anyone there? Why is Hyrox there? Why is Hyrox actually a thing?
Yeah. Well, I just mean like everything else is easier to manage because you don't, I mean, it's like lunges, your knee touches the floor at the bottom.
Yeah,
Burpee.
it doesn't though. For a lot of people, Chris, it doesn't.
Yeah, I know that. But the most of the discrepancy is around the wall balls, isn't it? People laugh at the fact that the wall balls are not wall balls. They're basically stood up, throwing the ball up, and they're not doing the squat. Just change the movement to something that's far easier to manage. If you can't manage it and you can't find a way to manage it, change the movement.
I mean,
Like
it's a pretty difficult place we're in when we can't judge a squat and we can't assess a squat, isn't it? Because that's essentially what we're talking about here.
this is it. those kettlebells, front rack them and do front rack kettlebell squats. That would be fucking shit. That would be so hard, but it would be you're managing the same thing, you're testing pretty much the same thing, but you guarantee people are going to slow down on and then
Why do you think Hyrox is popular?
because
Why do you think it's because it's easy?
low barrier for entry. And
Yeah.
honestly, it's always comes back to what what does it kind of embody and show off. And I think it's a low barrier for entry way for people to now show that they train or that they're fit because they get, tops off and wear very little at these events. Um, and they get some good photos for it.
Do you know what? That's exact.
It's
I
like doing
share.
a photo shoot. That's why people like it's just, whenever someone starts training, yeah, I'm going to do a photo shoot. I'm going to get on stage. It's like, why? That's so far removed from health and from fitness. What? Why on earth are you doing that?
Yeah,
But that's what we do, isn't it?
yeah. I think. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think you've absolutely nailed it. That's my opinion as well.
Do you also think that for those reasons, it is also fun to the people that are doing it? I think from people like me and you who do, respectable sports, Alex, um, that have like set standards and skill requirements. For us, it's very easy to say, yeah, but Hyrox is just this and it's just that. But for people who aren't involved in other sports, it isn't. It's a gateway, isn't it? It's a gateway whereby they don't really need to work on anything other than go and run because it's cool at the moment. Running's cool at the minute, so now they're cool in one way, and practice doing classes, which is all people can be bothered to do
And
off their own accord because they're not working out by themselves. They're in big groups. They're being told what to do. And they don't need one specific coach or PT for it. They can just go and rock up at a class and do a 45-minute battering. It makes them sore. It's all the things that people associate with a good workout.
sore, sweaty, hard to breathe. They
That's me.
feel like they've done a lot of work. Like that's the big thing. You feel like you've done a lot. Like I'm currently having a bit of a not say an argument, but a bit of a
That's an argument.
no. It's not an argument. It's a bit of a consistent reinforcement to a triathlete that I'm working with. And she does a lot of biking. She wants to build up a lot of leg strength.
Squats.
And it's like the big thing is like we're working on some jumping, we're working on some power development from various different positions, including just from seated, so like seated vertical jumps and single leg jumps and it's the whole thing of I don't feel like I'm doing anything. And I'm like, are you jumping as high as you can? Are you trying to jump as high as you can? Yes. Then you're doing something and you're working the stimulus I want you to work. But because it doesn't generate that same level of pain or muscle burn or fatigue or difficulty in breathing, it gets pushed to one side as this is no longer a useful activity for me, when in fact, it is absolutely the exact thing that you should be doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is, again, it's strength building, power development, athletic development isn't necessarily supposed to just make you consistently tired and sore. Like there is a time and a place for that, and there is a specific result that comes along with that. And if you are trying to burn fat, burn calories, just moving, exercising, doing things with a higher tempo, higher intensity, it kind of doesn't really matter what you do as long as you do stuff that is going to get you out of breath and make you push hard. And in particular, that involves doing exercises that you are not efficient at, which is why burpees were so popular. But I say popular, they were certainly a chosen exercise for a lot of coaches, a lot of trainers for a long period of time until people started to get really fed up. Like obviously clients don't like them because they're not efficient at them. They're not an easy exercise to do. When people start running for the first time, they're not efficient runners. So you have to be patient with it, dial it back, and ultimately take a bit of time, build your exposure to it. So again, just because it doesn't make you out of breath, tired, hot, sweaty, doesn't necessarily mean it's not effective. So yeah, that's certainly a side effect of Hyrox is that you do experience all those things and you feel like you're making progress from like just from doing a single session. Um,
I'd be intrigued to see a study on
I wouldn't.
knee health and Hyrox athletes.
Okay. Why?
They don't do, or maybe even hip health, because they don't need to be significantly strong. And me and you know as coaches, and if there's people out there listening, if you're a strength athlete, you don't dip out of doing your strength work. You dip out of doing your warm-ups, your cool downs, your nutrition work, anything that's not the strength work. Because like you said, they just don't see the importance of not doing the thing that they think in their head is the number one thing they need to do. For High Rocks, it's running and it's conditioning, it's work capacity. So they don't do the prerequisite strength work. They do running and they do those hard classes. But as we know, if you aren't doing the appropriate strength training to actively improve the health of your joints, tendons, ligaments, musculature around feet, ankle, knee, hip, and you just keep smashing them to bits with all the volume that's being driven through your quads in a high rocks, you're going to get some serious issues, serious tissues. It's just a matter of time before.
Serious tissues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's you are gonna either hip injury or quad knee injury.
The last question I want to go through on this
Yeah,
is when have you known a judge or a referee turn around to an athlete or a player and go, yeah, do you know what? You're right. I was wrong. And change their mind about something. When have you known that happen?
I'm trying to think. I saw one clip and it was either rugby league or Australian rules football. Do they call it?
Yeah, Aussie rules.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen this. I think it was viral a few months ago actually, whereby the referee gave a decision. And then one of the players comes up to him and he's basically, I have no idea what the conversation was, but one of the players is like, so this happened. And the referee's like, yeah. And he goes, and then this happened. And the referee's like, yep. And then he goes, but wouldn't that mean that this is the case? So that means the goal stands, right? And the referee genuinely looks at him and goes, you know what? You're right, actually. Yeah. And he blows his whistle and and he does it and it's brilliant. But outside of that, no, I don't know if this is the point you were alluding to make. No, I don't know if I have heard many cases where the referee's gone, you know what, yeah, you're right. Or the judge has gone, you know what, yeah, you're right. Do you?
Yeah, I think like similar to you, I think I might remember that clip. I'm gonna have to have a look at it and find it out again. The only time, like I have vented at referees on multiple occasions, vented around referees specifically on many more occasions. So like I think it's very difficult because obviously in sport, emotions boil over, tempers flare, people get irritated, especially if decisions are going against you. It's very important to do that in a controlled manner. Like you can't always help it. What people don't like to see, and I know what used to be the case in football much more so than you see now, is it would go over the top and it would almost become players bullying referees into trying to change their mind. I think I've never really known a situation like in particular in American football where a head coach has even managed to change a referee's mind on something. Like you frequently see, like the head coach is probably the only person with any sort of authority that can actually go and speak to a referee and get answers. Sometimes that's not even the case. But referees will frequently get together as a group, collaborate, like share what information, what they've seen, and then come to a decision and decide what they're going to do, rightly or wrongly. But I have never known it with an individual player seeing a decision in a game be able to actually educate a referee. I've never witnessed that firsthand where the referee's then gone, okay, yeah, actually, yeah, that's right. And a lot of the time in American football, there are some dubious calls. There are some clear-cut things which are wrong, but that does happen. Before you go, the only one time I have managed to convince a referee, and it wasn't difficult, it was a pretty basic one. It was actually this season. We went out for the coin toss, and I think I won the coin toss. Did I? Either, maybe not, but the other team had decided they were going to take the ball, which then means my team are kicking. So we get the choice of which end we defend or where we kick from. But he turned to them and go, right, which end would you like to receive the ball? And I went, no, 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 no. We get to choose where we kick from. And he kind of went, oh yeah, okay. Where do you want to kick from? Well, that end there, we're going that way. And he was like, right, okay. And then that was it. But like that's the only time, and that's obviously not even in the heat of the game. That's like at the coin toss where there was other referees around that could correct it, but I stepped in and changed his mind on it. But yeah, that's it, it doesn't happen very often, if ever.
So I was actually going to say, I actually remember a time that I've seen you do it. I remember a time when we were watching, so I was at the sideline next to you, watching Brandon Warriors, and I don't remember who was taking the goal kick, but this was just before the rules changed. He went to take a goal kick, and it didn't leave the penalty box. It didn't leave his area. He miskicked it or slipped or whatever. And their striker came in and scored, and you shouted, you were doing your referee training at the time, I think, which is obviously where this came from. And you shouted the ball hadn't even left the area. So it didn't stand. And you shouted it and they were celebrating. And the referee was like, oh yeah, yeah, sorry, it's a retake. It's a goal kick retake. Yeah. That was the first time in my life that I'd seen that happen.
Yeah, I don't even remember that. I don't even remember that myself. Um, so long story short, I feel like the underlying principle to this episode is don't argue with referees, don't argue with judges. As much as you don't like it, get on with it. Continue to try and meet the standards and respect the people that are there to help you compete. Like I think all referees, all judges say this, like we are here for you to be able to compete and play your game, play your sport, enjoy your race. Respect us, respect our decisions, whether you do or don't like it, it doesn't matter. Get on with it. Go.
Yeah, I was going to say also with anything like that, there is always an opportunity to take it up with someone above just your judge. Adhere to your standard, be a good athlete, look after your judge. And then if you have a further problem, you finish the event in whatever way you can to a high standard. You then speak to the judge. And then if you're in the Hyrox World Championships, Christ, you've got people videoing you. It's being videoed. You just say, listen, just take a look at this for me. I'm really not happy about this. What's going to change? And ultimately, maybe nothing. Maybe they won't give you any compensation if that's what you're after, but you know where you stand as an athlete. They now know where you stand as an athlete. Everyone else who's watching on Instagram, which is everyone, by the way, now knows where you stand as an athlete. And that works out good for you, even if you didn't win that event,
Yeah.
like, so, or in this case, the entire workout, whatever it is. Like moving forward in the future, you're in a good position and they look stupid.
Also, my final point on this, and this is a question for people to think, for you to think about, but who do you think you are as an athlete to think that you could potentially ever go through your entire sporting life without having a decision go against you or having a moment, a situation, a judging call that you don't like? Who do you think you are to feel like you don't deserve or you deserve every single decision to go in your favor? Complete nonsense. So wipe it out your head immediately. If that's the thought that you've got, understand that it's sport, it's life. There's human error, there's poor calls, there's bad judgment. There might even be cheating at times. Get on with it. Deal with it as best as you can.
Sorry, I've got another point to that now. I'm reading a book at the minute that would interest you, Alex. It talks about how risk and luck are two sides of the same coin. And actually, it leads into exactly what you were saying there. It was talking about, I was reading last night how Bill Gates,
What's the book?
the book,
Don't just talk about the book. Tell us what the book is, and I
I,
can read it.
I actually don't know the name of the book. I'll
Oh.
I'll tell you when we finish. Sorry, everyone. Um, but I do recall what it said, and it was saying how Bill Gates was one of 300 people in the United States who happened to be fortunate enough to go to a school that had a computer when he was born, and that's how he built his love for computers. His best friend was smarter than him in school and was better with computers. They did everything together. Bill Gates was put as one in a million of US students who went to different schools, and only 300 of the, I think it said like 300 of 300 million or something had a computer. So he was one in a million. His best mate, same scenario, who was better than him, and they were best friends and they would have obviously been together, died in a mountaineering accident. And I
Accident.
think, again,
Accident.
that was a
Yeah.
1 in a million chance. And it talks about how literally,
Accident.
I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah. Was
what
Bill Gates on the trip? Huh?
Anyways,
Sorry.
but the point is risk and
Love,
luck.
love you, Bill, if you're listening.
He is listening. Oh,
Listening.
you're
Oh,
now. Anyone's listening, it's him. Yeah, no, things are going to go against you,
no. What
and
have I done?
you can do everything right within your power, and it'll still go against you. Sometimes that's just the way it is. You're just increasing your chances best you can.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not.
Right, guys, that ends episode number 148. Episode 138. Thank you very, very much for tuning in, listening. If you've been watching on YouTube, glad you could see us. We will be back again with another episode very, very soon. So stay tuned and we will see you again.
Peace, love, and proud team.
Lenko out.